Tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air.
How do we find the health of a river? By simply measuring the dissolved oxygen level, we can gain a lot of knowledge about the health and water quality of a body of water.
Dissolved oxygen is the amount of oxygen dissolved in a body of water measured in parts per million. It is extremely important for aquatic organisms as they need the oxygen in the water to breathe. If there is little dissolved oxygen available, they must breathe more often to get enough oxygen. The more frequently they breathe, the more stress they are putting on their bodies.
Let's learn how we measure for dissolved oxygen using the Winkler method. Winkler was a Hungarian analytical chemist who is known for discovering an efficient method for measuring dissolved oxygen. For our DO test, we used the Carolina kit.
First, fill a bottle completely with water, leaving no space at the top. A good way to do this is to submerge the bottle underwater completely and cap it while it is underwater, as this prevents bubbles from entering the bottle.
Then, uncap the bottle and add 8 drops of manganese sulfate and 8 drops of alkaline potassium iodide azide to the bottle. The bottle will overflow.
Recap the bottle and mix, allowing a precipitate to form. Allow this precipitate to settle.
Add 1 gram of sulfamic acid powder to the bottle. Recap and mix the bottle until everything is dissolved.
Now a titration will be conducted to find out the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water.
Put 20 milliliters of the sample bottle into the titration tube.
Fill the titration syringe with 1 milliliter of sodium thiosulfate.
Add 1 drop of sodium thiosulfate at a time to the sample, swirling between each drop until the sample becomes pale yellow.
Remove the cap and titration syringe from the titration tube and add 8 drops of starch indicator solution. Replace the lid and swirl until the solution turns blue.
Continue the titration with the remaining sodium thiosulfate in the syringe until the solution turns clear.
Read how much thiosulfate was used. You may have needed to use more than 1 syringe full to finish the titration.
Now find out how much dissolved oxygen there was in the water. Each 0.1 milliliters of sodium thiosulfate used is equal to 1 parts per million DO, or 1 milligram of oxygen per liter of water. Now you have your results in parts per million.
Different levels of dissolved oxygen can impact bodies of water in different ways. Although many people are not aware of it, having dangerously high or low dissolved oxygen levels can be dangerous to the organisms living in the water and the overall water quality.
Dissolved oxygen can enter water in a number of ways, mostly through contact with the atmosphere. Water that is more disturbed, running through rapids and over rocks and waterfalls, has more dissolved oxygen in it due to contact and mixing with the air. Higher oxygen levels are found in more turbulent waters.
The number of plants in the water also affects DO levels, as photosynthetic plants release oxygen.
It is interesting to note that as temperature increases, the solubility of gases, including oxygen, decreases. This means that with higher water temperature, there is less dissolved oxygen available for organisms.
Low levels of dissolved oxygen can also create poor living conditions for organisms that live in water. For example, when there is very little oxygen, anaerobic conditions can lead to the release of phosphorus from sediments, which acts as a fertilizer. This can cause algal blooms, which also create dangerous environments for organisms.
Organisms that have similar DO tolerance levels often live in the same environment. Some organisms, like catfish and carp, can tolerate DO levels as low as 2 milligrams per liter, but in general, the dissolved oxygen levels must be 6.5 milligrams per liter or greater for most organisms to survive.
As we have learned, finding the dissolved oxygen of a body of water is an important aspect of river ecology. It is a simple test which can provide plentiful information about the health of a body of water. When in doubt, DO.
Do 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 do.